distribute a lay recording archive after this meeting. Let's start back at the top again. For those who've just joined in the last minute or two, we're doing this on WebEx. We've muted all the attendees to keep the background noise down. But one is there's a green tab at the top center of your screen where you can open up a chat box. And we do welcome the interaction and questions and comments on your experiences in the chat box, and we will follow those as we go along. And we'll take your questions in today's session. If we don't get to them, we will follow up with you directly on a one-on-one basis. Megan Miller with Digital War Room. And with me today on the call is Ben Blaine. As I mentioned a few moments ago, many of you might know Ben because he does a lot of work with Digital War Room clients in installation and implementation and training on Digital War Room work group and supporting all of the Digital War Room product line. He's very active in ACEDS and has contributed to their education program, so he's quite a deep level of experience in e-discovery and best practices. We're here, all of you on the line are already users of Digital War Room products, either Workgroup, Digital Pro on the desktop, or perhaps you use the Digital War Room remote hosted edition of the product. And the features that we walk through today in our new version 8.5 are common across all of those products. If you want to move ahead, Ben, what we're going to do is just use a few slides here to give you a brief look at of 8.5, the rollout, the upgrade, and then some of the key features on slide content. But then we're going to jump right into the product and show you some of the most important features in this new release. You should have received in the last couple of days an email from our support team announcing the release of version 8.5. That email gave you a document and some instructions about how the upgrade process works. All information and documents and tips, tricks with the new version and the new features are hosted on our support site on digitalwarroom.com. It's important that those of you know if you are on version 8.3 or earlier, do work with our support team to do your upgrade. And in case they're happy to help you with the upgrade process regardless of what version you're coming from. If you are a client who uses Digital War Room remote hosted with either GGO or one of our hosting partners, some details about that rollout from your project manager. Those rollouts get handled on a case-by-case basis. Ben? We'll just go through a handful of the key features that are most important and that you'll really realize some efficiency from in version 8.5. And before we jump into the product and actually show you these hands-on. Tree has made enhancements that allows you to run searches much faster than ever before. The filtering is set up so that as you set filters, if the auto search is turned on in that, see at the bottom left of the filter screen, that your results will pull back instantly, increasing the response time on getting your results from your search. We'll put that in the demo. An exciting thing we'll show you is the Google Translate. I'm interested, in fact, for some of those of you on the line, if you're actively working cases that do involve foreign language content, and if you're interested or would have the need to be using this auto-translate feature. Digital now integrates with Google Translate so that the content of the document you're reviewing, you can hit portions of it and the translate button, as you see in the screenshot here, it will do an automatic translation using Google Translate. It's a way to just get a sense of what a document is about. You may not want to be making final review tagging decisions without a native reviewer in some cases, and of course it depends on the document. But that translate helps you get a sense of what a document is about, and you may get enough to realize if it's important or not hot enough to escalate. Made some improvements in the production area with indexing. of production data sets to generate production OCR after you finalize. And I think Ben is planning on showing some of these production improvements as well. And the metadata overlay allows you to use the .dap file to do some feed mapping and overlay metadata into a collection. Ben, I'm not sure what's going on with the video, but I'm seeing the rendering a little bit odd. I would ask anybody who's watching, if you're kind of getting some aberrations in your display, let us know. I'm not sure what we'll be able to do about it, but hopefully you're able to see the content of the slides and especially the software when we get there. We did add also, and this was requested by a lot of clients, but it's something you want to use carefully, is the ability to do a replacement of document images right in the interface. The most common case example, and I think Ben can give you more, is that if a document OCR badly, or you've got a that's corrupted, or you need to have a more pure and accurate document within the collection, you'll be able to do a replacement through a dialog window. That when we jump into the software as well. And we did do, and users will appreciate this because we've gotten requests for this quite a bit, is some improvements to redaction. Redaction used to be a solid block over the redacted content, but with a multi-step redaction process where a reviewer selects and redacts content, and then a supervisor may go back and review that redacted content for approve it for finalizing it. That was difficult because it wasn't transparent. Now the step of redaction that the initial reviewer does is transparent. So the reviewing supervisor can take a look at that redaction, or reviewer, you as a reviewer yourself can take a look at what you've redacted and verify or validate it to yourself without having to be moving the redaction box around. And the final approval of the redaction, it solidifies that redaction. Get some customizable capability within that redaction feature, and I think Ben can show us some of that in a moment as well. Next, I think we've got one or two slides of sort of a second portion of the list of, it's a long list of enhancements and small feature changes that we made within this release. We won't have time in today's session trying to hold this to about 40 to 45 minutes to walk through every single one of these, but it's good to read through and know about them, or you'll realize them as you come across them. For example, the thread visualizer is a really great way to visualize email threads and see where a thread may have trailed off or an email may have been forwarded off to another party. It helps visualize the email patterns of communication much better. There are several other general updates. I'm not sure, Ben, when we get into these, you may want to pick and choose one or two from these last two lists of highlights.
Good on a time available basis.
Good. And just a reminder to everybody, as we're about to jump into the demo now, but two things. We're recording this so you can come back and have a look at these features again. You'll also probably get an email from us about a second version 8.5 review session that we're going to do, I forgot the date, Ben, in about a week. We will be back doing another live session as well. And so what it means is any questions you have in the meantime, make sure we know about those, and we will address them in our second review session. Again, both of these will be recorded.
As on January 8th.
8th. So while for that, we'll send you a notice about the January 8th live session as well as a link to today's recording. If we will jump over now, I think Ben's going to open up Digital Room Work Group to show you some of the top-level features that we opened with talking about. As a reminder, whether you're on Work Group or hosted Digital War Room Remote or Digital War Room Pro on the desktop, a lot of these features, if not all of them, are going to be common across all of those products.
making sure access to those slides as I present the features. I want to make sure that we cover them all. My plan is to go through the features that were highlighted in the slide deck that we just looked at, and to get through any of them as we can. But obviously, if there's a particular feature you're interested in, please let us know through the chat window, and I'll make an effort to address it. Probably the most noticeable change, aside from UI things, we've done a lot of look and feel changes to make it more intuitive and to update the UI. But I think when you get into the tool, when you get into A5, more things you'll notice is that when you run searches, your search window here on the left has changed a bit. It's now laid out more as a list. Have the ability to navigate through your search options as through a tree. So you can open up the variants of your search, browse to the items that you're interested in, and select them. What I'd like to point out is this auto search functionality Megan mentioned. If that box is checked, and it is checked by default, then as soon as you select a search option, for instance, choose one of my custodians, the results come back. And refine search by selecting other search options. So, for instance, maybe I want to see everything within that custodian marked for production. This is useful if you're just quickly trying to drive into certain documents, if you know where you're going. On the other hand, if your plan is to construct a complicated search, it may be advantageous to disable this feature, at least until you're familiar how it's used. Because it's automatically running your searches. If search happens to be a complex one, then it may be to your benefit to build the search first and then click the search button to continue. This functionality applies not just to checkboxes, but for instance, if you're entering a date range, you have the in here to select a date range and to restrict it. So you can see some familiar special filtering options down here at the bottom. Next up would be the Google Translate feature. This is filters. This is the ability to use the Google Translate functionality provided directly by Google to translate portions or entire contents of documents. It even has to be enabled using a Google API key, which is something that you register for with Google, and there's a small charge associated with it. It's entirely through Google, but it's really pennies on the document, or as they pennies on the megas of documents. It's really quite inexpensive. I think I'd probably run up 20 cents worth of charge. I don't think they're making much money on it. It's really just to prevent people from overusing the service. That's my interpretation, anyhow. So, with that Google API key, if you obtain one, enter it into the tool. There's a very, very simple interface for doing so. Pull documents. Let me see if I can find it down here. Elegant very language document. That might matter here. One moment. I will bring my browser window up so it's more visible here in the center of the screen. And you'll have Translate enabled. Once you enable Translate through the tool, the Translate button is available, and you can select an entire document or portions of a document, Translate, and use the Google Translate version of the selected text. Next up, and please do jump in if you have questions. Please put them in the chat window, and we will make sure to address them as we go. I see somebody commenting that they have Japanese documents, and that Google Translate feature should accommodate Japanese documents just fine. As you saw, it handled Korean documents without a problem. Next up is the indexing OCR. The key component of this feature, I think, is the fact that you can your option after the fact with OCR enabled and create OCR for a production for which you did not initially create OCR. So for example, if you've generated a production, and I'll have a sample one here to show you. I generated, and you can, as I click through the documents, there's a native tab, an image tab, a history tab, but no OCR tab. So production without OCR, finalize my production. So into it, it's now in its final state. But if I go back to the step, selection, and JR, so I've selected the generated image files, wait, looks like it's 45 pages. We may take that one out of the queue and do the rest. But we will see that the OCR process operates on the production, generate OCR text files for the events in the production. I'd like to note also is the indexing process now catches or saves off indexed information every 500 megabytes or so as it's indexing. So if you index indexing and you cancel, you have the ability to restart your indexing, and it picks up more or less where it left off. You don't lose any of your indexing process, or progress rather. You save yourself time, so you get some efficiency there. Here reduction generated before after the fact. So that other one has a 45-page document, and I just don't want to make you wait for it. So this was a production where we generated OCR after the fact, and it's identical to the OCR that you would get if you generated it during the endorsement process. So you have the option to generate OCR later. The overlaying metadata onto review. So it happens sometimes in a variety of reasons, but you may need to update the metadata that you're seeing in DWR, and that would include things like title and date. And so one instance of that may be if you're migrating from another platform and you've loaded documents in and you have metadata from that platform that you want to include in DWR that isn't in the native files themselves when you load them in. So for instance, maybe you need to update the titles or the dates or some other kind of metadata for those documents. You now have an option, much as with ad productions, to overlay metadata into the platform. You also, for instance, may have coding done. If we're provided with, say, of scanned documents, and you have vendor generate objective coding for those documents, you may want to overlay that coding into the tool. You now have the ability to do that, and I'll show you how that's done. We have some docs loaded up in our view. You click on your collection. This is done through the review section of work group. This is not able to designate reviewers. This is only something that can be done through work group. Option, overlay metadata. collection. We will navigate, and I happen to have an overlay out here that I've generated, a DAT file. And it pops up with the feeder contained in that metadata file. Your mapping values. So we have mapping key values, and I'm just going to update a couple of my fields. So in metadata file, I have a number of fields, and I'm just going to select signal and extension. And now, looking up at the fields above, what's currently in those fields. So we have, titles and extensions of these files. And then using our ID. So you get to choose which field in your load file and which field in the database should be used to connect the records that you're updating. And the title values and the extension values have now been updated. And I had just junk titles and extensions. Obviously, you'd have something that means something to you, but in my case, I just chose values that would indicate to me clearly that these fields had been updated. So that we've updated those fields in the database. One question to the chat window about summation and concordance migration. For migration, you would use this operation, this metadata overlay, to bring in product and any other kinds of tags that you want to get along with your data. So once you had imported your data, you would have the option to, if you generated a DAT file from your source, you could use that DAT file to overlay the desired metadata into DWR, and that would complete the migration. The next one, please. Any others? Documents. As Megan, this is something that is best done, with a good deal of caution, because obviously when you replace a document, you are overriding the existing record in your corpus, in your matter repository, with something new. So where I see it being most useful, where we've seen folks most interested in this feature, is when you've already imaged a file and it's just not seeing the image that they want. Maybe they don't have the correct application installed, or maybe the settings aren't something that's easy to configure. And so with this, you'd have the ability to over an image in DWR with something new. And so for that, we will a quick draft production here, and then I'll show you to overage. That's there. This file, we see that like this. And then I'll show you, and I've just pulled up a file I have here on my desktop, and we'll use this as the replacement image. Image. Section to replace document. You can, by the way, do this in review. So what may happen is you may pre-image your documents for, say, redaction. Also about chatting. It looks like we don't see all participants' messages in the window. It looks like they're being submitted privately. So I will check the window periodically, and if I see a question there, I will respond to it. So for review, we'll take a look at the documents. We have ID 60, and just to show you that the functionality exists over here in review. If we pull up document 160, we'll find it has an image. And if we do that image and replace it, replace the prescription TIFF. We have our TIFF here on the dump. And we set the TIFF. This document is the new one just generated. Obviously not the correct TIFF for this email, but it demonstrates the functionality. You replace the TIFF or the native version or the OCR text for document in your purpose. Action features. You now have more transparency, so to speak, literally with your action options. To do that, we will flag one of these document redaction. We'll pick one that we've already imaged. This enables the redaction tool. And first I'll demonstrate how you're able to, on a file-by-file basis, change the redaction text. So you could redact one file with the word redacted. We could go to the next one and change it to highly confidential or attorney's eyes only or whatever we like here in the redaction box. Also, could be colors that are used. As you can, I drew the box. It was black as I was drawing it, but it is grayed out, or it is parent gray. So you're able to see what's behind it, and that through until the redaction is approved. When the redaction is approved, the box black can't be edited, obviously. The redaction should be unapproved, gray, and can be edited. So this allows somebody who's reviewing for potential approval to see what was redacted without having to move the box out of the way and put it back. So there's still a lot more ease of review for redaction. A little bit of time here. I have a couple of questions through here. Request to date the items here under general dates. And this is just a small list, by the way. There are many, many changes, some of them minor, some of them significant. We've tried to cover the most significant ones here, but as you can see, this is a mix of other new features that have been added. And the question that I was just reading was about the optional new browser-integrated native viewer for Office documents. If it's installed on the box where you're running Digital War Room, you have to view the files in the Office viewer as opposed to in whatever viewer you have installed. So Quick View is one of the common viewers that folks use for many file types. But if you enable the viewing option, for instance, let's look at this document. This is 70, and as you can see, it's being viewed in Quick View Plus. Enable it, a configuration to the shortcut. So I'm going to close down my digital room session, and this is something that you could launch from the command line, or if you just modify the shortcut. It's /OV for Office Viewer, and this should be in our online documentation as well. But /OV /V will enable the option. I will apply setting. bring back my documents, scroll back down to ID 70, you see that the browser window is Office interface no longer says Quick View Plus, and you have the ability to formulas and anything else that you might have seen before. You know, if it's a Word document, it has things like track changes turned on, you're able to look at that well. This is a read-only copy. Now, you are able to things that look like changes to the documents, but those will not be preserved. As I clicked and came back, and so it is only Office Viewer. So obviously someone would need to know that any changes they make to the document will not be saved. Looking down the list, we have a couple other items here. If you have a specific item that you'd like us to touch on, please mention it in the chat window. Request also to send out the documentation about how to enable that Office viewing option and changes, and we will make sure to do that. We'll demonstrate the thread visualizer. You can see here that for this file, it's a linear thread, but as we through, it demonstrates how the documents in the email chain are related. And with a more complex source of email, I would see relationships between those documents. So in this case, we just have two. It also determines if there are any missing links. If there are missing links between your documents, it will. It's using the thread in the email header, and so if there is if the date doesn't contain one of the thread entries, then it'll show you a gap where that hole exists. Separate flag columns here for prep and callback documents. We separated out the columns for printed information. You can see red headed column here, and then the blue headed column is for gun-related information. So you're at a glance to get more information about documents. You can see here, for instance, this is a document. It is in action, blue, but it has also been clawed back, hence the gray flag. Yes, Megan.
Those alerts are the same as the previous release, but just separating into a second column lets you see two pieces of information instead of one?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think changes were made to color. I believe it was just to provide more information visually.
That's good. Thank you.
We asked about how the upgrade will affect peripheral software, such as IrfanView or Quick View Plus. And a bit of a technical question I don't want to go too deep into, but there shouldn't be any problems from 8.5 upgrading the software. I made no changes to my installed peripherals when I upgraded, and everything worked as it had before. So it wouldn't be a problem. If you're doing something, let us know. Contact the support database, please. Based on what we've seen here, is there anything else in particular you'd like me to touch on that you think folks might be interested in?
I just tell everybody, hey, last chance. Spend the next minute or so if you've got last questions, put them in the chat box. Ben's a wealth of information. Good time to take advantage of his knowledge. A few more seconds to see if any more questions pop up.
I'll keep this up for folks to glance through. if this bugs your memory question you might have had, or something that you're curious about.
Yeah, good. And what I'm thinking, go.
One to note, this auto-indexing option, auto-indexing support after processing and ingesting data. This is something, it's no change in functionality. The indexing functionality is the same, but the process has changed a bit in that when you go to process your data, after you have injected the data into the tool, it jumps directly into indexing. Can, of course, cancel that, but what we heard were people asking for this feature to save them time, so that if they had dropped, say, a large collection onto the tool and let it run overnight, they were hoping that it would be keyword indexed in the morning. And so it is make that happen automatically. And so into indexing at the completion of ingestion. As I mentioned, you can cancel that, and as I also mentioned earlier in the call, the tool picks it left off in indexing. So for instance, if you jump to automatic indexing and it looking too long, if you didn't want to wait for it to finish, you could cancel and then say kick it off at the end of the day, and it will pick up where it left off and wrap it up. I have a question here in the chat window about designate and the nation panel. And I may be misunderstanding. Please clarify if I am understanding. But the question is, will there be changes in the navigation panel in designate, or will it stay the same for users? And the interface in designate will look like this review interface here in Workgroup. So there are some changes, mainly to the search window here in the upper left. So folks familiar with designate will have an adjustment period, but it hopefully will be intuitive and make things easier for them. Excellent question. Any questions?
On.
Okay. Well, that'll conclude the presentation then. Megan, did you want to wrap it up?
I tried to capture a couple of notes. There was one thing I think I missed. We're going to send out to everybody a link to this recording. We will focus a little recap of some of these questions that were asked during the session, and asked for a link to which document, instructions about the Office
Viewer. Specifically about enabling the Office Viewer in the browser window, but also just a broader set of changes and improvements to the tool. So I think we might have a more comprehensive change list. A question just popped up in the window as well, asking if the user guide is updated, and the answer is yes. There's a new 5 user guide, and there was a request earlier to just a link for that. And I believe it's on our website. Honestly, I'm not sure what the link is to it, but we could distribute the link to the user guide. But it is available in the tool. When you upgrade DWR, you'll find it here in your help menu, and you'll see version 8.5, and has been updated to reflect the latest changes to the tool.
Perfect, great. I'll make sure the follow-up email includes a link to the download guide, a link to the documents that detail the new features in more detail, and specifically the enabling of the Office Viewer.
Great, thank you.
Last request one, or we'll just shout to our thank you and clip. We appreciate your active participation, your use the tool and in the questions you ask, because it's your experience and your questions and your suggestions that help us keep improving Digital Room. Anytime you have a question or a contribution or a suggestion to make, support@digitalroom.com. So hosted matters, do talk to your project manager. They should be the focal point for everything you need there. And again, watch email follow-up. I'd like to thank you, Ben, for all the help in this great demo today. I hope everyone on the call got a lot out of it. And watch your email for a wrap up, and we'll do another session in January should you want to come back and bring more questions. Thanks, and happy holidays to all of you. Bye-bye.